We're going to use Photoshop to make a text effect that makes it look like the text you write is on fire. So the first thing you could do is download the image of fire that you see on your screen and go ahead and open that up inside Photoshop. Well, we're going to need it in just a little bit. Next step is I'm going to go ahead and make a new file, and that's definitely not going to work. That's really small for some reason. Let's do 1980 by 1080. We'll call this fire text, and actually I think I meant to say 1920 by 1080. Make sure that your background color is set to pure black and press OK. Grab your text tool. Make sure that your font is set to white, otherwise you won't be able to see it. You want to have something pretty large like 72 point, and I found this font that I think works pretty good. But what you can do type it out, move to the middle of your page with the move tool, and I'm just going to get it selected. And if I come up to the top with the fonts, you can actually get previews. Now what we want for this tutorial is we want something nice and thick, like this. We don't want something thin and sort of scripty. It won't work nearly as well. So we want nice thick letters. So if you have this same font that I do, you might want to consider using that one. The next few steps involve using layer styles to really embellish this text a bit. You can get to there by double clicking over here near the words of your text layer. We'll start with the outer glow. If you don't see one of these effects, you can come down here to the effects button and you can find it there. So we'll start with the outer glow. We're going to check it and we're going to click on it to open up its options. We're going to leave this blend mode on screen. Opacity should be about 75%, and we're going to choose a nice bright red color. We'll go ahead and make the size somewhere closer to 20 pixels, and now you can really see that glow coming out. Next, we're going to turn on color overlay, and we'll go ahead and get its options. Instead of a gray overlay, what we want to have is more of a reddish orange somewhere along here. You can always use my hexadecimal number if you want to get the exact same color as me. Next we'll do the one called Satin. We are going to get sort of a brown color here, so a little bit darker than the orange we were just using. A little bit more red in there. We're going to make the opacity 100%. We are going to have the angle be about 20 degrees. Oops, I did not mean to press enter. I do that sometimes by accident. Let's go back to Satin. 20 degrees on the angle. Distance we're going to say is 10 pixels, and the size is going to be about 15 pixels. Now we'll move on to inner glow. So we'll check that and we will get its options going. We're going to change the blend mode from screen to color dodge, and we're going to put the opacity all the way up here. And for this color we're going to be looking for sort of a yellowy orange color, so a little bit closer to the yellow spectrum than we've been using. Maybe a little bit closer to orange, something along these lines. We're going to make the size 15, maybe not 15, maybe 12 pixels. At this point we can dismiss our layer style window by pressing OK. We're going to come down to the Layers tab, right click, and choose Rasterize Type. Next we'll head up to Filter in the Distort category and go to the bottom one called Zigzag. Set your amount to about 8 and the ridges at 4. Make sure the style is set at Pond Ripples. It gives it that wavy look like it's actually been on fire. Okay, now let's go ahead and add some fire. We'll switch to the tab that has the fire document. We'll grab the Move tool. We'll move it up to our main document. Once it switches over with the mouse still held down, we'll bring it down. We'll drop into our scene. You can just press yes if you get a message like this. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to pick out certain parts of the fire. We're going to do that by coming over here, clicking on the Channels tab. Now I am going to hold down Control or Command if you're using a Mac and click on the actual thumbnail of the green channel. And what it's going to do is going to select just the lightest parts of the fire, the highlights. I'm going to go back to the Layers tab and I'm going to press Control J or Command J. And what happens is this new layer, and I can get rid of the old one, oops, just picked out the brightest parts of the fire, the highlights. I'll go ahead and I'll rename that fire. And at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a couple copies of this. I can press Control J or Command J, or I can just drag it down here to the new layer button. And I'll move these around. And I'll press Control T to open up the transform. And I'm going to do things like resizing them. I'm going to flip them around so it's not so obvious that they're copies of each other. I can also lower the opacity of these layers a little bit, down to like 75%, so it's not quite as bright, and the text will shine through a little bit more. So I'll press Enter on that. I'll go down to my first copy. I'll move that over here. Control T, and I'll rotate a bit. Resize a bit, and I will take that opacity down. And I'll do the same thing with my original. Very good. Now, for the very last step, I'm going to go ahead and create a reflection of everything we see here down here at the bottom part of the screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my top fire copy. I'm going to hold down Shift and click on Fab Lab, or whatever your text happens to be. And that's going to get all these layers selected, and I'm going to drag them down onto the group icon. So now I have a group. I'm going to drag that down onto the new layer icon to make a copy of the group. And on this one, I'll go to Edit, Transform, Flip Vertical. And I'm going to drag this. Once I have it moving straight down, I can hold down Shift to lock that in. There we go. And I'm going to make it so that this bottom part is not quite as bright. And I'm going to do that by adding a layer mask to this top group. Now, the layer mask is automatically selected. I can tell that it's selected by these little white borders around it. I'm going to grab my gradient tool. That's here. It's nested with the paint bucket tool, so you might see that instead. Grab the gradient tool, come up here, and you're going to select the white to black gradient. It should be in the top left-hand corner. And I'm going to draw a gradient by clicking and moving my mouse down and releasing. And if you look over at the layer mask icon, what it's doing is it's making a white to black gradient, and the black parts of the gradient are parts that are not seen. So you can't see the lowest parts of this copy of the word Fab Lab. And you can play with this gradient to get it the way you want it by dragging from different points and how far down you draw. I like this, so it begins to fade and the most bottom part of the words Fab Lab are not seen. Can also take the opacity on this whole layer down a little bit to make the whole thing a little bit duller. And there we go. It looks like a nice reflection of the words on fire. As part of the very last step, I'm going to go ahead and click on my topmost group that has a layer mask on it, and I'm going to add an adjustment layer of Hue Saturation. The first thing I can do is I can take the saturation and I can pump it up, and it's going to make the colors a bit more vibrant. They look actually a little bit hotter, if you ask me. Now, up to you, but you can also come up here to the Hue slider, and we can sort of colorize the entire thing and change the color So all kinds of different things. So if you prefer more of a blue fire or want to keep it sort of at an orangey red or sort of a more purpley, you can totally do that. And what happens is this layer affects, this adjustment affects everything underneath of it. In this case, that's everything. So once you're ready, I would go ahead and save it. Make sure you save it two ways. First, save it as a Photoshop file so that you can retain all these layers. You could come back later and work on it. And once you've done that, make sure that when you save it the final time, that you're saving it as either a JPEG or a PNG file, and that's the file that you can turn in.